So for every video that we've watched, I've asked you to ask a question, either one that you had yourself upon finishing the video, or one that you thought someone else might ask or someone else would be able to answer at the end of the video. Let's just say that your questions were not what I was looking for. I'm looking to see us actually delve deeply into topics, and right now we're kind of scraping the surface. So this video is going to talk about how to write questions that will really help readers to dig deeper at topics, because good readers, they ask questions as they read, and the more in-depth your questions are, the better they're going to come out. So, and the more you'll get into a topic. So let's actually look at our learning objectives before we go any farther, shall we? So, you have two objectives. One, I want you to understand the concept of what higher order thinking questions are. And two, I want you to be able to complete step 5 of the reciprocal teaching process. Okay, so let's talk about higher order questions and what that actually means. Now, you may or may not have heard of Bloom's taxonomy before, but we're going to actually look at Bloom's taxonomy right now, and we're going to talk a little bit about what that is and how it works. All right. So, Bloom's taxonomy is let's see if we can get this so that you can actually see me and the Blooms at the same time. Nope. Bloom's taxonomy is this man who was an educational psychologist, developed a classification of behavior that was important in learning, okay? So then they updated it to try to make it kind of fit with what we do now. If you look on the left, all right, that's the latest version of Bloom's taxonomy. The kind of questions that you guys have been asking have been questions that deal with remembering and understanding. Maybe you get to applying and analyzing, but mostly you haven't. Now, how do you know where you are in Bloom's taxonomy? Well, the higher you go in the pyramid, the more advanced your questions are, the more they are considered higher order thinking questions. So I'm going to scroll a little bit so that you can see the types of questions that you can ask. If you ask a question that says identify or recognize or select, that's actually understanding in terms of Bloom's taxonomy. And as you go down this little chart, each of those become more and more advanced, okay? So this is nice, and it has lots of great verbs. You might want to pause this video and write down the top 3 types of questions that you can ask, analyzing, evaluating, and creating, and choose your favorite 2 or 3 verbs from those lists that you think would be really great kinds of questions to ask. Now, let's actually look at a more visual representation of Bloom's taxonomy. I like this one because I feel like for those of us that are really into visuals, this makes a lot of sense. Okay, so here is the iPad app version of Bloom's taxonomy. You'll notice in the middle, you've got creating, and that's the biggest cog of the wheel. And then you've got all the other kinds of cogs going around it. And if you look, you can see things like animating and video casting and storytelling. Those are all things that qualify as creating. So if you take something and you create something that's based on it but more like not exactly the same, then what you're doing is you're doing one of the highest order thinking kinds of things that you can do. So pause the video and see if you can write down one verb from each of the cogs, okay? So I'm going to scroll real slow, and you pick one verb from each of those cogs and label it with the type of question that it is. Recall that the ones at the bottom are the ones that are more advanced. Okay? When you're done with that, we're going to talk about reciprocal teaching super quick, just to kind of remind us what that's for, and then you'll go on to the next video. Okay, so reciprocal teaching, remember, is a set of strategies that readers use in order to interact deeply with texts. If you look, we've already talked about step 1, we talked about step 6 and step 2. Step 5 is questioning. And what we ask you to do in questioning is to write 3 really awesome questions and their answers. Now, when you browse through the materials in Schoology, you're going to find in the reading folder a bunch of really great resources that are going to help you with this. Thanks a lot.